I'm Mark Catelli with John Pipoly. Holy moly, Dr. Pipoly.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is the fourth and final rendition of the special series on a new perspective on the classification of plants. Tonight's topic is Angiosperms, Dicots, and the new Legume classification. I wanted to share my screen and show you some of our announcements. I'm going to attempt it real quick, and if it doesn't work, oh well, at least I tried, right? So let's find out. Share. Does this work? Does this work, guys? Nope, it doesn't. So
Forget
anyway,
Google.
shows Google.
Yeah, you have to pull up what you want.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't think it's a little bit confusing for me. Should be better at this, right? Let's see this one.
No, sometimes it's just really persnickety, you know.
How about this? Do you see
Oh,
this,
yeah.
John?
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Really nice.
All right. So, guys, tonight, modern perspective on vascular plants with holy moly, Dr. Pipoly. Again, these are stored on our YouTube channel. Actually, our YouTube channel is right here. You can go ahead and hit subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, it's youtube.com/Cuplet Fern. There you'll see the ANA grade primitive monocots and magnolia relatives. There is the seed-bearing video, the spermatophyta plants, and then further down is the spore-bearing plants and ferns. Excellent resources for you guys to review. Dr. Pipoly's slides and presentations always are kind of like your gateway to more information, to more books, to more research. It's a good place to start, and that's why we invited Dr. Pipoly to begin with. He's an excellent, excellent teacher for lay people just like you and me. So that's tonight. Further down at cupletfern.org/events, we have Plantober. As many of you know, Florida Native Plant Society celebrates October as Florida Native Plant Month. It's exciting times. We do a lot of local and statewide proclamations proclaiming October as Florida Native Plant Month with our local politicians and city officials. But we're doing a short campaign online where we're showing some of the most beautiful Florida Native photographs all month just to raise awareness too. Further down, October 15th is our native plant sale. We're at Sanford, October 15th, 8:30 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. More information is available through cupletfern.org. The pièce de résistance is the seed and sapling swap. John, these are in Miami colors, so I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. So seed and sapling swap, 100% Florida native plants. You can go to cupletfern.org. Here lies the Eventbrite link. Just go ahead and click it, support us. It's really cheap tickets. We just need to kind of gauge our capacity because it is a limited capacity space. So a ticket is required. You can make a donation and participate in the seed and sapling swap. If you don't have plants, don't worry about it. We'll give you plants. Just enjoy the swap, enjoy camaraderie, enjoy native garden chats, people sharing their tips on growing plants, etc. It's a fun time. It is on October 16th. It's 11 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. in Sanford. We're having our program in person. Dr. Pipoly was wondering if we were going to have a in-person presentation, but it's actually later down in October, and it's creating a backyard habitat with Kristen Marshall-Matson from Stetson University. She's going to talk about how the birds, bees, and how you can attract nature and biodiversity using native plants. 6:30 p.m., October 17th. It's Monday night at Seminole IFAS Auditorium. November is our final, actually second to final native plant sale. We have 4 this fall. November 5th, Wekiva Springs. This is a very unusual plant sale. So usually we have them at just, venues like the Sanford Garden Club or Seminole IFAS. But rather than people coming from different neighborhoods and purchasing plants for their different individual gardens, front yards, backyards, gardening beds, etc., we are piloting a new program here with Cuplet Fern where we're going into a neighborhood, into an HOA, and conducting a full-scale native plant sale for that entire neighborhood. So that way you can insert yards upon yards with wildflowers, with native trees. Don't worry, Dr. Pipoly, there is no xanthosylum, wild lime, or anything like that in the mix. In case people are wondering about the citrus greening, we're not going to be showcasing those types of plants, but pretty plants, sassafras, sparkleberry, lots of blueberries, lots of milkweed. Nice pilot project. We're hoping that this is actually the start of something much bigger, where we're making a bigger footprint, not just in one person's yard in the entire neighborhood, but the entire neighborhood itself. November 5th, Wekiva Springs, which is in Longwood, 9 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. Exciting times here at Cuplet Fern. And then our final plant sale is up in Deltona. This is at the beautiful, beautiful Liana Preserve. I highly recommend you guys go there and check it out. Liana Environmental Center is known for its scrub habitat installations indoors. Matter of fact, the atrium, probably an educational value, is easily $2 million. So it's a beautiful facility. We're actually right outside conducting the plant sale November 12th, which is a Saturday, 8:30 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. Right after that, on that Sunday, is a program presentation about the history of Liana Preserve. The Liana Preserve has an interesting side story to it. It has become, unfortunately, an island, completely swallowed and surrounded by development. It is famous for its scrub jays. The scrub jay is the only endemic bird here to Florida, and they are extremely friendly, inquisitive, and they'll fly right up to a human being and investigate them a little bit further. If you'd like to learn a little bit about the history of Liana Preserve, please come and join us. The program is free and open to the public November 13th, which is Sunday at 11 a.m. That's about it for me. I will kind of pass it on to John that he can discuss Broward Parks a little bit. John, do you want to share something new and exciting that's going on with Broward Parks?
We are working with the Guy Harvey Foundation, and it has an NGO, believe it or not, in Colorado with a bunch of marine bio people, and they want to bring some marine biology courses for high schools in Broward County, and we're going to collaborate with them on for things on Deerfield Island, which is an island that we have that we're going to make into another nature center to match the other new nature center we have, which is Miramar Island, 3600 North University. So it's about 3 miles north of the Miami-Dade border. It's south of Sheridan University, and it now has a classroom, lab kind of a thing, all put in there in some offices. So it is now the folks no longer have to operate out of a ticket booth for their office. They now have a nice place, and we have a place to do the next two big courses. Are going to be September 20th to 29th is going to be habitat evaluation, Florida Master Naturalist. And if for those of you that have had that or know about it, it's basically vegetation inventory and monitoring. So that's going to be an in-person class. And following that, immediately following that, from October 3rd to October 9th, we're going to have wildlife monitoring. This is going to be a really cool course because we have permission to, with the natural resource management people, to actually do inventories that are going to count. So for both of those courses, the students are going to participate in citizen science by gathering data as they learn each protocol. That data will be recorded. And since we're going to do it at precise GPS reference points, and the map will be made, Every
Wow.
year, those 2 courses will be taught there, and we'll add to the data, so we'll have a 3-dimensional picture of the ecosystems that are there. So it's your chance to learn that stuff. We'll do telemetry. We're going to do the bat locator. We're going to do, the plywood board on the ground, the critters go underneath it. We will do one pit trap, only one. You put like a little snow fence, and at the end you put like a 5-gallon bucket in the ground so it's level, and you put a sponge at the bottom so the critter doesn't dry out. And then you put it down one night, and next morning we'll be there at 7 a.m. to discover the critters and take them out. We're also going to do some small traps, some small mammal traps. However, we are not marking anything. The zoologists, to study things, have this compulsion to take off one toe, which is kind of that's what's been the tradition for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
So instead of that, so the ones that are collected a lot have no toes. But anyway, all of the cool stuff we will be doing, and we'll show everybody how to calculate species importance values and understand what's what. So awesome. By the way, when you folks have those lectures at IFAS, it's going to be really important that you kind of push them to tell you what their current thoughts about what life zone you're really in, as opposed to what the map says you are. That's really important, because you do have to, as a group, decide, are you going to participate in assisted migration? That's something you need to Google. There are papers from the Chicago Botanical Garden. It's controversial, but it has been important for them. They've been able to save some prairie species that would have gone extinct in Illinois, now that Illinois can't sustain the prairies, and they're in Wisconsin.
Oh,
so yeah. You see, as they move northward, so somebody has to be willing to, pick up the challenge and figure it out.
And start that unsavory conversation. I understand, and I agree. Yeah, so here in Seminole County, so Cuplet Fern is Seminole and West Volusia, but in Seminole there is discussion now to adopt the Florida Friendly Landscape Program into their public landscape plan, their ordinance. And we are supportive of it because we feel like it's going to take us towards a more sustainable
absolutely
structure. Yeah. It might cost a little bit more initially, but the Florida Friendly Landscape Program at least imparts and instills a good component of native plants, as well as some non-native, but certainly non-invasive plants as well. Because
they have a special section that deals with subdivisions as a whole. So when you go to work with a subdivision, speak to that person in Gainesville about it. They actually have money, and they have to go to give so many talks a year to accomplish their performance measures. So help them realize their performance measures by having them come and get 2 or 3 of your native plant groups together. Tell them we're going to visit several of these HOAs, give them the name of the HOAs, saying, please come and train the trainers. See, then you guys can go and give their talks, and they'll give you the PowerPoints and everything.
They've been excellent allies here.
Yeah.
Here in Seminole, some HOAs have pushed back a little bit with the native plants. Sometimes they're overgrown, especially with the generous rainfall that we're receiving right now. But IFAS has stepped in and said, well, they're allowed to. I mean, there is a statewide statute now that says you can plant these things and not get into trouble with the HOA.
Right, exactly.
So they have been that middleman, and they have been excellent. I mean, I'm very, very supportive and grateful of our local IFAS team here.
Yeah, and just so you know, the law that said that you cannot be fined for planting Florida-friendly landscapes was signed by Governor Chris. That was his baby. Just in case it's useful for people to know.
Yeah, it is. People to know. Moving on. Out of the political rabbit hole that we just started. John,
I'm
would you like
sorry.
to?
I was there. No, I was there when it happened. That's how I know. Because he had a
Right.
choice, yes or no. And he read it over and he said, "Why wouldn't I sign this thing? Give me the pen." That was it. I thought that,
Is that what happened?
yeah, it
That's
was so
amazing.
funny. Because he's sitting there at the desk and they're saying, "Well, this is the big time. There's been so much debate one way or another." And he looks at it, he reads it over, he goes, "This makes total sense. It's so logical. Of course I'm going to sign it. Give me the pen." That was really good. It's the first
Well,
time
there you have it.
behaved that way. It was a real surprise.
There you have it, folks. Well, John, would you like to pull up your
Okay, I'm
presentation?
ready to go. Yes, indeed. Here we go. What is it? Oh, my computer. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Where the heck is this? Slide sharing tips.
It's the share button at the
The
bottom.
share button at the bottom, and I have to go to share screen, right?
Share screen or slides, and if it's slides, then you can choose.
Oh, then
from your
I can go find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have no slides. What do you mean? I've got it up.
Maybe it's on your screen. So try share and then try share screen. So click the share button again.
Here. Okay.
And try to share screen option.
Okay, so share screen. Screen share is easiest with 2 monitors. Well, sorry.
Don't worry, Dr. Pipoly. I'm here for you. Yeah, I'll be here to relay questions and comments with Stream Live.
There we go.
All right, there we have it.
Oh, what happened?
There you go.
There we go.
Yep.
Oh, but I got to get it. I have to do duplicate slideshow. There it is. Perfect. Is that
Wonderful.
Good?
Yes, it's looking great. I'll leave you to it.
Okay, thank you. I want to tell everybody tonight, I'm not going through a whole lot of dicot families because it's just too big. I'm giving you a snapshot, but I'm concentrating on this legume classification thing because it's completely turned the world upside down. And I've provided your president with a document that is an original key that I wrote to the subgenera that you may run across. And I also gave him the publication from I believe it's 2017, where the work was done. So you have it. Okay. All right. So we've seen this tonight. We're talking about flowering plants, Magnoliophyta. You've seen this before, and I'm sure you have it memorized very well. Okay. And we're going to be talking about the true dicots. We're in over here. All right. The first group we're going to talk about is the rosid groups that are before the legumes and their relatives. Let me see what the easiest way to get there. There it is. Okay, so the first are the grapes. We have muscadine grape as a native species here. Grapes have really cool flowers. If you look at the cissus down here, that has four petals and 4 stamens and this huge nectar disc, which is really characteristics. There is a shrub, if you see on the upper right here, Lea guineensis, which is from Equatorial Guinea in Africa. But throughout Southeast Asia, there's the genus Lea, and some of them are fairly significant, albeit understory trees. Most commonly with purple or bright red stems and leaves that are dark green on the top and purple or blue on the bottom. So you'll see these other cissus over here with 5 petals. Here's some more grape. This is I think from a Virginia creeper. All right, and here's just more details. All the little things about they have leaf opposed tendrils and leaf opposed inflorescences as well. So if there's a tendril here, they usually doesn't flower there. The next node will have a leaf here, or actually a leaf on this side, and a tendril over here. The leaves are alternate, but each one is 180 degrees on the stem from the next, so they are what we call disticus, which means 2 rows. All right, now we're going to get into the legume thing here. Whoop, where's my page up? Yeah, so the legumes we've always talked about are the papilionaceous ones, the ones that have the banner, and the 2 keel petals are fused at the bottom, and they have these lateral petals, wings. There's all kinds of combinations about legumes, but everyone needs to know that legumes and citrus and sapondaceae, that's all the genep and lychees and all their relatives, by definition, they have compound leaves. So if you see one that looks like it has a simple leaf, it's unifoliolate. And you see that word right here, unifoliolate. So it's got this little pulvinus, and that allows the leaf to move around, and we'll talk about that in a minute. A lot of the reclassification happened when they had people that were looking at pollination biology and people that were looking at developmental structures. Notice that there were some legumes that had the sepals closed in bud here, and then it irregularly opened. Well, this Bauhinia purpurea, the Hong Kong orchid, does that, but guess what else does it? The red bud. Everyone always assumed that that was a papilionoid and this was a sesopinoid. Not so. So some big changes have come about. So here we go. The mimosoids are now part of the sesopinoids, and they're no longer a subfamily. We have the faboids, the dialioids, the duparketioids, the circidoids, and the datarioids. And we'll go through this in a little bit. This publication from 2017 that I gave to your president, he'll make it available for you. It is so clear, and the groups that they use to show you, you can go most places and you'll be able to see members of the majority of it. Maybe not a duparketioid, but the majority of the other ones in greenhouses and people's collections in the particularly the subtropical part of the state. You'll see them all, and you'll see all the differences they have. So the datarioids don't have big spines on their trunks. They have extrafloral nectaries on the lower leaf, the leaflet margin, or the rachis. The leaves are rarely unifoliolate. They're mostly bifoliolate. So that means the compound leaf has only 2 leaflets. Okay. The stamens can go tendinumerous, and there are no root nodules in this group. So Brownia used to be a sesopinoid. Hymenea used to be a sesopinoid. Copaiba, that's the one that has all those fossil insects in amber, back from very, very early, probably around 10, 15,000 years ago. Then we're going to talk about the Circidae, which are the red buds and their groups around them. And there's a red bud, and that leaf is not simple. It is a unifoliolate leaf. It has 2 pulvini, one at the petiole base and one at the petiole apex. All right. So believe it or not, Bauhinias and rudbuds are close relatives. They just don't. We have taught ourselves not to recognize that. But look at that calyx closed in bud on that Bauhinia there. Yeah, that really wakes you up. Most people have not been thinking about that. Other members of this Circid group, Barclaya, that's a really cool plant. I believe that's Asian. Now, the leaflets in this group are opposite when they're bifoliolate, okay? When they're unifoliolate, they're entire or lobed. The flowers are bilaterally symmetrical. That means there's one plane of symmetry. The sepals are united or 2 to 5 lobed. And when they're united, they're usually united in bud, and then they sort of rip irregularly. So on the same plant, you can have some with 2 lobes and some with 4 lobes, 3 lobes, 5 lobes, all those sorts of combination. Petals often 5. Stamens are usually twice the petals, and they're in 2 whorls. Oh, all right. Tonight I'm using, Jesus, what am I doing? I'm on a tablet tonight, and it's very sensitive. Here's another Cercidae. You know, Bauhinia is a genus we know as trees here, but through the neotropics, they're some of the most intricate and cool-looking lianas that are around. You remember, a liana starts off as a shrub and then has some kind of mechanism for climbing, and it becomes a giant woody vine, and 90+% of its biomass is up in the tree canopies. And one of the biggest things that happens with lianas is when you cut a tree down, if you're reckless about it, it may have 3 or 4 lianas attached, and up to a half a mile away, another gigantic tree will come crashing down. When Scott Morey and I were in French Guyana at La Fumée Mountain, it was very, very close call for us several times, 2 times in particular, when a giant ceiba tree went down. It was probably over 50 meters. The Guianan Shield in the northeastern part of South America, that includes Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. The trees have a canopy of 50 to 55 meters with emergence up to 60 meters. Most of the rest of the Amazon is 40 to 50 meters at most. The Southeast Asia is 75 meters and above. And of course, our temperate rainforest is above 98 meters, and we've already talked about that. The Dialium group, and this Popygia is pretty commonly cultivated. It's been brought in at least to South Florida and Central Florida, several places. They have alternate leaflets instead of opposite leaflets. Imparapinnate, so there is no terminal leaflet. And they have extrafloral nectaries on the petiole. Excuse me, the extrafloral nectaries are absent from the petiolar leaf rachis. There are some unifoliolate ones. They're kind of weird ones that you won't run into very often. But you notice these fruit here, they're almost samoroid. They have one seed in the center and this flat wing here. And on some of the genera that are in this group, that thing can be, you know, a foot or more long, and the seed about as big as your thumb. Now here's Dialium guianense that has drupe, as a one-seeded drupe. And here are the flowers from it. And here's a drawing of the close-up of the flower. Indehiscent druper samara. There you go. Now, these are samaras from Kumpasia malacensis in Borneo. That also reaches, at least I collected it in southern Palawan in the Philippines. There's a question as to whether it's that same species or a new species, and they haven't been able to settle on it yet, which is kind of disturbing because I collected it in, I think it was 1996. This Martiodendron is a really cool, because it has, in an inflorescence, it has the central flower bisexual, and it's surrounded by staminate flowers. Where else have we seen that? We saw it in the euphorbiaceae with the Cyatheum inflorescence, with the two bracts, then the staminate flowers of one stamen each surrounding the pistillate flower that grows on a gynophore when it matures, the little, stalk. Okay, now we're going to enter the cassia craziness. Cassia is a big group. In the old world, they have more colors. In the new world, they're mostly yellow, the flowers. The Rupert Barnaby, who I learned my botanical Latin friend from, was a guy at the New York Botanical Garden for years and years, very British and not really trained in botany. He was trained in the classics. He went to public school, as they say, and he lived out on Long Island, but he had an incredible dedication to botany. And as he got to be a very advanced senior citizen, they let him live in a special apartment that was built for him next to the snuff mill in the New York Botanical Garden. And that guy, in 3 years, revised the Cassinae, the genus Cassia, everything that was at one time in the genus Cassia, some 500 species, something like 3,000 names. Incredible. The guy just did magnificent work. And what we end up with is Cassia, Senna, and Chamacrista. So Cassia has these sigmoid curved filaments for the stamens. The fruit are usually round in cross-section and they're long. So, something like Cassia grandis from Central America, which is about almost 3 feet long, seed pod, perfectly round in cross-section, which is called terete by botanists who love esoteric words. Cassia javanica has that same thing. That's often planted in Miami. And it's gotten all the way, I believe it's gotten up as far as Stewart. On the other side of the state, I'm not sure how far up it's gone. It can get to be a very big tree. Chamacrista, on the other hand, is a little small shrub, not more than 3 feet tall ever. They have straight filaments, you see. And then the fruits are elastically dehiscent. And not only are they're these long, skinny pods, and they open up and they curl on themselves. None of this other group does that. Then you have Senna, which has straight filaments. The stipules don't have lines. There's lines on the stipules of Chamacrista. The Senna is larger. There's a lot of those Senna ligustrina and Senna mexicana, if already chapped me on the eye. Are both native species in South Florida. There's also a Senna suratensis. That's a tree that gets to be about, 12 feet tall, maybe something like that. Those Sennas have flat fruits with the two edges are thickened. As you remember, legumes have seeds only on one side, on the inside, but both of them are thickened. And the Senna is the source of our laxatives. Okay? Quote, natural, unquote, laxatives. Here's Cassia fistula. See the fruit round in cross section. Cassia grandis, like I told you. Here's Senna uniflora, and this is a one-sided little pod. So this side is thick, and so is that, but it's kind of funky with the little individual seeds. Senna ligustrina. All right. Now, Chamacrista nictans. This is the little tiny shrub that's very important in scrub habitats. Absolutely critical. Visited by a lot of butterflies. these curl back on each other when they open lengthwise. Okay.
Yes, you have a question from your astute student, PJ Espinal. She is joining us again. So hi, PJ. She's wondering why the euphorbia family is so convoluted, plant to tree to just unusual species in different climates and around the world. It's a very diverse family. And then she has a sub question about cassia as well, if you know if there's a white cassia or not.
A white cassia. I have never seen one. If there is, it will probably be Asian and it'll be related to Cassia javanica. It'll be in that group. That's where you would expect to find it. Because the other ones over here are all yellow. And it just wouldn't make sense that there were any white ones. The pollinators aren't here for white flowered cassias. The reason why the euphorbs are so diverse is that for some reason, they had a whole group, about a third of the euphorbs took advantage of xeric habitats. So the inter-Andean desert, the deserts of the old world. So when you compare a columnar cactus to a columnar euphorbia, they look absolutely the same until you get to looking at the actual spines, and you'll see that the Euphorbiaceae have two little horns, kind of like the University of Texas hook'em horns, whereas the Cactaceae will have a pad with little areole with a bunch of spines in it. Now with Cassia, it's big diversified group. It's like Psychotria, it has a lot of different groups in it. But she should also know that a lot of the clear sapped Euphorbiaceae with ternately compound leaves or pinnately compound leaves that have caustic sap that'll burn your eyes and other things. Those are now in the Phylanthaceae, and they're not in the Euphorbiaceae. And that has to do with a lot of molecular clock DNA stuff and a few other things. I'm not really up on those as much as if you Google Paul, and his last name is Berry, Berry. He is a colleague of mine who's in charge of botany at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he's had about 20 students working on Euphorbiaceae now for about 10 years. And they're a force to be reckoned with. They really do really good work. And that's about all I can tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what people should know is starting in when I decided to work for Broward County in 2006, I put my research concentration, I diluted.
I think you accidentally muted your mic. It's a little, you're right, your tablet is a little touchy. No, it's on this main screen and it's in the studio.
Got it. I got it. Yes, I'm good.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, cool. Sorry, everybody. This tablet is it's very responsive, but too responsive. Oh, come on, man. How come it won't go? I don't know why it won't go full blast here. Should I stop sharing and go grab it again? It's not moving. Okay, let me do that. Yes, there you go. Are we okay now? Everything good?
Yes, you look at.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. All right. Now I'm going to talk about this. We've talked about that Caesalpinia group. Now we're going to go see a few others. There have been a lot of realignments of genera, and I know people get really bummed out about that, but there are places where you can look this up, and believe it or not, everybody's going to laugh at me, but it turns out that the two folks that are legume people that have made some of these big changes are working closely with the USDA people and people that are in food and agriculture of the United Nations, etc. And they have friends who are in Wikipedia, so they change the names. It's amazing. I can't believe it, but it's such an economically important group that I think that's why it gets done. So Caesalpinia bonduk is now Guilandina bonduk, and it has to do with how the fruit forms and opens and those sorts of things, and the initiations of the stamens, whether it's from outside in or the inside out, whether it's a Caesalpinia or a Guilandina. So the knickerbean is the coastal plant that we've seen around quite a bit. It has these it has compound leaves, and it has the fruits. Those fruits do not have spines, ladies and gentlemen. There are no vascular strands in those things that jam you, so they are prickles. Okay. So this grows right next to another legume that has apparently entire leaves, which are actually unifoliolate, and that is called the coin vine. And that's all up and down Florida's coasts as well. So legumes are really, really important. And among all the groups that are here, this Tachigali group is the weirdest group of tropical trees I have ever come across. These are trees that grow more in the western than the eastern Amazon, but there's some in the eastern as well, a few in the genus Tachigali, that get to be about 5 meters, that is 15 feet in diameter, and grow to 40 meters in height. They have these ants on them that are almost 3 inches long. Wherever they bite you from that area to the farthest extremity from it becomes numb and useless. So they're nasty ants. They flower once and then they die. Then when they fall down, sometimes there's so many lianas that are connected to them that they start a domino effect, and we get what's called a catastrophic knockdown in the western Amazon. So as you're going down the main river in your canoe, you can hear these giant crashes all over, and a lot of it's perfectly natural. It's because the Tachigalis died and croaked. It's not because people are necessarily chopping the trees down, although in some areas they are. More central Amazonia and the northeastern part of Amazonia, where there's a big demand for people to get into the gold mines. Here's copperpod that's common around our area. Not the greatest thing to plant because it gets a little out of control. But this is another Caesalpinoid group, and it has another kind of a strange fruit that's almost Samara-like. The other important plant, really, really important plant for all you organic types, is carob. And this is what a staminate inflorescence on the right or a pistillate inflorescence in the center look like for carob. When I run across those, I said, geez, I got to show these people carob because it's something you hear about all the time. If you buy it, you really knock your checkbook down in a hurry. Tastes really nice. It doesn't have hardly any grease. Pretty effective against cholesterol, though, just like dark chocolate is. And that's just a little academic botany side trip there. Now, the mimosoids are part of the sesopinoids, but as a group, they still stick together pretty well with little radially symmetric flowers, those little teeny ones that you see there. They have a fused corollas, and they have this lower portion of the stamens that are fused into one group. They're monadelphous. So they have a little tube there. They don't have any nitrogen fixing nodules on their roots. And in northeastern South America, the largest of the legumes are all mimosoids, and they're gigantic. And what's, of course, really interesting about them is the flowers are always pointing down, and the fruits are always pointing up. That has to do with what's pollinating them, and what's picking off the fruits are coming to get the fruits. In this group is a thing called Parkia, and that is on a special inflorescence. It's like a round ball, and on a really long, almost like an African sausage tree kind of thing, and it's pollinated by bats. And those particular bats have to have the pollen on their faces. The males go after that. It's sort of like high karate. If they don't have it on their faces and they try to mate with the female beats them up and knocks them to the ground. So it's not a good thing there at all. Salmonea samana is a gigantic rain tree. There are several of those throughout Florida. Practically, I think I saw one in about 10 miles south of Lake Buena Vista, and it was another one of these folks that have been there since the 50s, and they had brought one of these trees back from God knows where. Mimosa strigolosa is a little ground cover that's very common in South Florida. Vakelia, that's another part of, begins with an A. I'll think of it in a minute. Let me think of the tree, that's the ear tree. Acacia, that's what it was. So the Vakelia used to be an acacia. The only species that are left in the genus Acacia are the ones that have phyllodes, the things that look like a simple leaf, which are in fact flattened petioles. So here's the white lead tree, which is very invasive, going northward rapidly. It'll be a threat where you are if it isn't already. So is mother-in-law's tongue. That's very, very bad. These are really reproductively efficient. And the worst part, all the mimosoids are self-compatible. So you can have a bee visit one and then go to the other, and just facultatively happen to be there, and it'll cause a problem. The Pithecolobium group, that's what we call bifoliate. There are the little black beans are up here. Here bifoliate, as you see, here's a gland right here, extrafloral nectary. And these things are closed in bud as well. Now this is the ice cream tree. I don't know if folks up where you are can grow that or not, but could be. This is a species of Parkia, but with a very, very short peduncle, as opposed to the ones that are really long. Inga edulis, Inga, the genus Inga is on all the rivers in South America. There are like more than 400 species of it, the same in Central America as well. And it's there's got to be like 50 different species of ants that live on those things. And when you go under them, the ants will tap the leaves and you will hear them marching before they jump on you. And those are stinging ants. So they're not very fun. Wild tamarind can be manipulated, and I used it. I turned my wild tamarind into a shrub so I could cover the front 3 major panes of glass in our front window in the house that we had in Tamarack. Since there were so many cars that went by with big lights, we wanted to hide. That's what we did. All right, and here's the typical papilionoid group that we talked about before. Here are some nice pictures. You can see the banner, the 2 wings, and then the fused keels. You should know that a legume opens lengthwise, like here. There's a suture here and a suture on the other side, and those 2 halves come open. But a lomit is transversely septate. That means it has little lines crossways, and it breaks up in little pieces. Something like a desmodium, the thing that gets all over your socks when you're in the yard. It just makes a total nuisance of itself. And this group, the papilionoids, are the group that have nitrogen-fixing nodules. So much so that when people have community gardens in areas where there are 4 definite seasons, they plant a legume during the summer when it's really hot, and then they spade that over to serve as a green manure, quote unquote. And it's very, very effective because the amount of nitrogen that they fix is really pretty amazing. And by the way, that fights the nitric oxides from burning of fossil fuels. So all these legumes with nodules are really nice things. Of course, I don't recommend that you plant the papilionoid giant trees, because most of those are invasive from Southeast Asia, like rosewood, for example. But the beans that we eat all do that. So, but I realized that where you folks were, Central Florida, is you're probably battling kudzu, which is in this group. Now, Arborus precatorius, rosary pea. That's the #1 killer in our state. If people swallow those seeds, there's normally not a problem. But if they chew the seeds and swallow them, they have cardiac glycosides. And it's lights out and they don't come on ever again. You're dead. There's nothing that anybody can do. So in a few minutes, you're adios. It's very sad. So where you see these, it's a good idea to yank them out right away. The crotallarias have these fruits, and they're called rattle boxes. And this was the Seminoles baby rattle. So yes, all babies like rattles. It's just a human thing. It's like humans prefer fruits that are orange over any other thing. All mammals do, as a matter of fact. We don't know why, but it seems to settle us. So eating mangoes is second nature to us. And that's not a joke. It's a serious thing. Then we get to the rose group after we talk about the legumes. And there's another diagram that tells you why. Because of this and this, we assume that all these folks have a common ancestry. And then because there are 2 additional things, all of this group has a common ancestor, etc. And it goes right up the chain there. So the Moraceae is a really funny family. The big thing is it has this terminal stipule at the end that surrounds the vegetative bud, and it leaves a scar. So if you look at a fig tree, there's scars all on the stems and even on the trunks, and those are from the terminal stipules that it had when it was a young sapling. Lots and lots of white sap that runs
The flowers are unisexual, but the plants are monoecious. So that means that they'll be staminate in one part and pistillate in another. Here's Ficus aurea, which is a native fig. Those figs are sessile. And you can always tell Ficus aurea from Ficus citrifolia because Ficus citrifolia has pedicels, they're little stalks that these fruits are on. Okay. Ficus microcarpa is introduced, of course. That's from Southeast Asia. Now, if you take a ficus fruit and turn it inside out, you get a mulberry. And here's a girl mulberry, and here's a boy mulberry. And that's all there is to it. It's that simple. They have their what are called accessory fruits. They have all these, a bunch of little carpels everywhere. Here's the breadfruit, and it has one inflorescence that's staminate. So it has all these little flowers with stamens and big puffy nectar things. And then the fruits that are like this, like a breadfruit. Osage orange is a northern temperate plant that resembles this a lot. Here's a fig. This is called a syconium. And what everybody has to remember, the reason why figs are so expensive is no matter where they're grown, a little fig wasp has to go inside there and bounce around and get it pollinated. So when they go to ship out the figs, if you get those dried figs that are in the little round thing and they're Turkish or from the Middle East, somebody's had to look inside every one of those and take the little bug out because the USDA won't allow that to come in. So it costs extra money. That's why they're expensive. So that's the story with that. It's just that simple. This fig is a real unique one because it's inside out and it's right on the ground and it's pollinated by ants of all things. So that's very interesting as well. This particular thing here has staminate, and there's the little staminate flowers, and these are little pistillate flowers. Ficus pumila. It is the same whether the leaf is as long as your thumb or whether the leaf is only as big as the fingernail of your thumb. Many people in Florida use this as our ivy because it roots at the nodes and it will climb up a wall and cover your building in ivy so you can pretend you're at Harvard or Cornell or Michigan State or, God forbid, Ohio State or one of those others. And here's a little pollination story and with the fig, and the wasp walking around and trying to lay eggs and all sorts of things. And there you go. Now, this plant used to be in the Moraceae. It's now in the Urticaceae because they've now checked out the DNA and there's significant separation time and structure and base pairs that are involved. This is Cecropia peltata. There's a genus that's very similar to this. It's called Peruma that doesn't have the leaves aren't peltate. They're to one side. Cecropia peltata in our area, South Florida, does very well now. It didn't used to before. In Central America, it has a golden colored ant that likes to bite you, particularly where your clothes are tight, so it's not very much fun for anybody. The Puzolzia and things like stinging nettles have these little strange flowers. Here, the little few 4 stamens. Pilea, the artillery plant, has little tiny flowers, and there are the fruits. Parietaria has little inflorescences with a couple of bracts, and then each flowers, you'll see that they have tepals instead of petals and sepals because we really can't distinguish them. Then I put on just a few Solanaceae because the potato and tomato family are very, very important. Their center of their diversification, without a doubt, is Peru. They have tremendous numbers of genera there. There are tree tomatoes. There are physalis, which is this, tomatillo, that goes up in Mexico, is in that same group. All of our tomatoes, all of our potatoes. Potatoes are from Peru. The Irishmen took them to Ireland as actually the Irish didn't, the Spanish did, and they traded with the British after the British had gone and hijacked bananas from New Guinea and several places in Southeast Asia. So there was some trade, and you can imagine people trying to keep these things alive as they brought them across the world. These leaves are alternate in spiral, but then they'll have these, it'll be every other one will be smaller, or they'll have some other modification. Many of these are very, very toxic. These are lovely plants, but deadly. This vine is hallucinogenic. This yesterday, today, and tomorrow, it belongs to a genus that is full of compounds that will put you on a trip that you may not come back from. Dangerous. Very dangerous. This is our Cestrum diurnum. This is Cestrum nocturnum. They're very weedy. They're also very fragrant. Here is our peppers, hot peppers, cold peppers. Tropical soda apple, which is an absolute nightmare, I believe, in your area. But all with these, they're basically atropenes. They're alkaloids that have very large NH3 ammonia groups on them, and they can completely stop your involuntary nervous system. So that's your heart rate and your breathing. We have angel trumpets in this part of the state, and people, kids read about getting high by making tea from the leaves. And still, every year we lose about 4 kids to doing that, because by the time the EMS technicians get there, there's already been a brain hemorrhaging. So it's sad. We have to be careful, and for the ones that are weeds like Solanum diphyllum that we'll see in our yard, deadly nightshade, it's better just to get rid of it. I mean, it's useful. It hangs down for bees, and the fruits are up for birds. But if there's kids around, it's just not worth taking a chance, because these are irreversible, and when they're dead, they're dead. All right, then in the gentians and their groups, you get the coffees. Coffee has a lot of cool things. The coffee family always has opposite leaves with interpetiolar stipules. If you have a plant with alternate leaves and interpetiolar stipules, it will be a rubiaceae 99.9% of the time, no matter where you are on Earth. This is our wonderful firebush. For all of those people who waste time worrying about compacta and glabra and all that sort of thing, all of these are native around the world in the tropics. The only reason the quote African compacta is termed that is because the Royal Botanic Garden Kew visited the African populations of Hemilia patens and noticed there was one form that was compact, and they selected it and propagated it vegetatively. It's from the same species. Dr. Charlotte Taylor of the Missouri Botanical Garden is the preeminent authority on this group, and she has studied it now for over 30 years. And the compact form occurs in every population on Earth. 2% of the other species in the wild has the compact form around. Okay, there's just no doubt about it. And yes, there may be another leaf in the world leaves that it has, but it's not to worry. It's not worth worrying about at all. What am I doing here? Okay. Now, cinchona, the plant that saved men. This was the plant that the United States government sent tons of botanists to the Andes during World War II to get cinchona and to check out which species had the most quinine to stop the malaria. I was privileged enough to meet 3 men who took pure quinine. Julian Starmark, Bill Steer, and Arthur Cronquist. Those 3 men in the 40s, one was in Africa, 2 were in the Andes, took it because they had malaria. They had temperatures in excess of 106, and their proteins were denaturing. This is when they were young men, not when they were famous botanists. But for the rest of their lives, their ears rang, kind of like as if they had tinnitus. And they were plagued with that the rest of their life. And that's what happens to you if you take pure quinine. But even today, it is the only remedy that will kill every malaria. So now that we have the falciparum, and we have Vivax, and we have malaria E, and we have one more, and they're all mixed, and they're on all continents, including, remember, Key Largo. We have to start being careful about how we handle it, because taking quinine is a very serious thing, and it changes your life. There are a number of these rubiaceae that have pin and thumb flowers, some with their stamens exerted and some with the stamens inside. It's a fantastic family, always 2 carpels. Of course, God's gift to the world, coffee, is an absolutely wonderful thing. My wife has to drink decaf now, and being Colombian, I always tell her that's treason, But anyway, now here's our Morinda citrifolia, otherwise known as, oh my God, I can't think of the name of it right now. It's a big deal in the health field, supposed to raise your immunity level significantly. And it's from the Pacific Islands, so they swear by it. Here are some other more common psychotrias that are around. Here is buttonbush, and that's up in Central Florida there. This is a plant that looks like clusia, but it's Cassassia. Here it is in fruit, and here it is in flower, like the 7-year pitch apple or something like that, I think they call it. Chiacaca alba, the snow vine. That's a really amazing thing too. And here's the beach creeper, Ernodia liralis. If you're in one of these developments where they've, it's all fill and you have 25 feet of sugar sand, why not plant that in your front yard? It's wonderful. It has these nice little red flowers, and then the fruits are little yellow things, and all the dicky birds just love it to death. It's really nice. It's easy to handle. You can get a pure stand in a very short period of time, and it's a good thing to have. So that is where we're at. Let me see where I have to go to get you guys again.
There we are.
Yeah, how can I? Oh, stop sharing.
Oh, that was fun. That was fun.
Was that good?
Oh man, it went by too soon. I was glued. So was PJ. I mean, PJ was just going bananas in the chat field. I mean, like, wow. And she's going to watch this video again. And PJ, thank you so much for your support.
No, I think if you can make sure they get that, make sure they get the paper from 2016. Yes. It's got a lot of technical stuff in it, but look at the color page where it has all the different groups, and then try my key. I had so far 3 groups of students that are taking plant systematics, vascular plant systematics as an undergraduate and as a graduate course. Right? The they're together in class. The difference is the type of projects they have to hand in are a lot different. But they've all tested it, and so far, no one has screwed up. So I'm not saying it won't happen, but it looks like we'll be okay.
Sounds good. So let's kind of jog through.
Or is it okay? Do we have any living victims or?
We do. PJ is writing away, folks. If you have questions, now is a good time.
Yeah.
Please don't be shy. PJ actually has a few, and we'll take a few of them as well.
Cool.
So she had a question about mimosa. They smell so nice. Are they related to the fainting plant? She's identified 2, Mimosa stridulosa in Central
Are they
Florida.
related to which one?
Are they related to something called the fainting plant?
Huh.
I'll have to look that up. Let me, fainting plant. Perhaps something scientific will pop up. It's a nerve plant, and it's probably Fittonia. Does that ring a bell, Doctor?
Fittonia. Yeah, Fittonia is not a legume.
Legume, yeah.
Not a legume.
Yeah,
They
look a little similar.
The sensitive plant.
Sensitive plant.
That
Yeah.
is related to, yeah.
All right, I'm going to share my screen real quick because I kind of pulled up some resources as usual.
Okay, great.
To aid your story. Let's see. Is this it? Chrome tab. I think this is it. All right, so let's kind of go through your bats. I found this cool picture of a bat just covered in pollen from a
and it's
mimosa family.
It's on a parkia. Look at the inflorescence there. There's no doubt about that. The world expert on parkia is Helen Hopkins, and she's oh so British. She's grew up in the town of Oxford. She has quite posh accent now, and she did her PhD on that and wrote that genus for Florida Tropica. And I don't know what she's up to nowadays. I think she's teaching at a university either in England or Scotland, one of the two. Really nice lady. But you talk about guts. This lady's up and hanging from trees, 70 meters, waiting for bats to come at midnight. Oh my God. Yes. And she climbs up there with Jumar ascender. She takes a crossbow, a 50-pound crossbow, pulls it down, has an arrow with a rope attached to it, throws it over a branch, brings the other end of the rope down, and then goes up with Jumar ascenders all the way to the top and has this little cot that hangs from the branch waiting for the bats to come up and pollinate the flowers. Wow. Unbelievable.
Wow.
All by herself, like a week walk into the jungle in the Congo, where you have all these giant gorillas walking around and stuff. Oh my God.
I'm sure many of our viewers know, but the ghost orchid, they had presumed that it was a moth, and it had a very long proboscis because I forget the floral.
The tube? Crawl tube?
Yes. It was very long, so it had to match a particular moth. And there we go with Carlton Ward, who founded the Wildlife Corridor, one of the founders of the Wildlife Corridor. He was up there out in the swamp for perhaps a week, and he finally shot it. But, he did have a friend. I believe his name was Max Stone that was there with him. But, yeah, they roughed it out, and they finally revealed the pollinator for the ghost orchid.
I just gave you the name of a really cool plant in the coffee family. It's often in conservatories.
Nice.
If it's it's an enclosed place, and you can stand having a little, let's say a tree to a large
corpse flower.
Yeah, that's not the corpse flower. This is Posaquaria latifolia, is a flower that has a tube that's probably like 8 to 10 inches long, and there are that has the pin and the thrum flowers, and these sphingid moths. They almost look like little helicopters that come at night, and they go to it. So listen, when all of you counsel people about growing native plants, remember to think about the time of day as well. What side of the house, how much sun, and if you're in the patio where you're going to entertain, that's where you need to put white flowers so they'll be fragrant at night.
Mm-hmm.
See, then you have this fragrance all around, and everybody it'll be more pleasant for everything you do.
Smart. So there it is, folks. I just put it on the screen.
Oh, Sequoia latifolia. It is so cool. It is.
Yeah, needle flower tree.
Not native for sure, but if you're in a closed area like some kind of a screened-in back thing or whatever, it's something that's interesting to see.
Very unusual plant. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to show people Charlotte M. Taylor. So there she is.
She is amazing. She did her PhD at Duke University. She was there the same time that Dr. John Kress was there, has retired from the Smithsonian and was a world expert in the Heliconia group of plants. At that time, there was the world expert in walnuts, Donald Stone. Let's see who else. The Dr. Wheatley that just wrote all these treatment for the Southeast U.S. was a graduate student with her in her same group.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, it's very scary, where all these folks are
coming from the same class.
Yeah, I got my PhD in '86, and all my friends are sitting at the retirement door, figuring out if they're going to go or not.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's really
you guys are monuments in your field.
Well, we were really, think about
truly.
it. I was so blessed. I studied with John Beaman, who's originally from North Carolina, and he had a total of 80 students. And of those 80 students, 78 have held significant positions, been directors of research or chairs of their departments or rectors of their universities or whatever. And then I was with Ian Prance, a legend, the director of Q, Professor Sir Ian Prance, Scott Morey, Mr. Amazon.
Wow.
I had to work for Bassett McGuire, the living legend that discovered the lost world. Julian Steiermark, the crazy guy that did the flora of Guatemala and the flora of Venezuela, practically, one-handed.
Wow.
It was just amazing. Dennis Stevenson, Mr. Anatomy, Mr. Psych Ed, Mr. Morphology, the best student Ernst Gifford ever had.
Amazing.
I got to meet all the biggies.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're not enough. The only living legend right now that I can think of is Doug and Pam Soltis at the University of Florida. They're it. And after they're gone, there is nobody. Well, maybe Michael Donahue, who's in my class at Yale. He might be a living legend. He's a National Academy member for sure.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow.
I've always moved with really fast company. It's easy.
Wow.
It's easier for people to think you're bright if you hang around with bright people. Kind of pick up the crumbs,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, social learning at its finest.
Yes. Yes. Noni. Yes. That's it. Noni. Yes. Yeah. People have stolen that from 3 Arboreta in South Florida. They're too lazy to grow their own, which is ridiculous. And this is a stinky fruit. People that have stinky feet that smell like Limburger cheese, that's what that fruit is like. So it's much better to get a capsule of the dried essence from the fruit. My wife, when she was in Orlando and working at Seventh-day Adventist Health, they had way too many people per square foot in the IT building, and the only reason she wasn't sick where she was doing the noni like mad. Because they had like half half cubicles, and everybody, and since they had this weird kind of they didn't have separate sick time and vacation time. It was in one pool, so nobody wanted to use it. So they'd come in hacking and coughing and sneezing. It was a mess, and it really worked. It was a good thing. No secondary effects that I know of.
Amazing.
Yeah, and noni, you can even get it at Walmart, for Christ's sake.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Those systematic figures that you showed us, where did you exactly pull those from? Because those are some really special, simple, easy to understand charts.
Oh,
that
you
had
mean
on the screen.
diagrams and
Yeah,
everything? Some of them
yeah, the diagrams. Yep.
Some of them are from the two textbooks, Vascular Plant Systematics by Toby Kellogg, Walter Judd, Peter Stevens, Michael Donahue, and others. And the other
Got
one is I'll go check 1 second. It's right here. It's another plant systematics book that I use at Nova.
It was really good, and I personally would like to explore that further, that resource.
Oh yeah, it's really great.
Folks, if you have other questions before we wrap up, that'd be great. Just go ahead and comment them away. We'll be happy to post them into the live feed. This is the final rendition of Dr. Pipoly's 4-part series with us. All of these are available through our YouTube channel. Please go to youtube.com/Cuplet Fern, subscribe, support us for free, and you can always share or embed those videos for others in the future.
I can't put my hand on it right now. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's totally fine.
Michael
Totally
Simpson.
fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you encounter it, please, I'll be happy to share that with our viewers as well.
Yeah, Michael Simpson, Amazon.com.
Okay.
Here it is. Let me go back over to StreamYard. Share screen. Share screen. Where the hell is it? Here. Share.
I think I found it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
There you go.
There you go. No, that's not it. I got it on my screen. There we
okay.
go.
I'll stop. Yeah. The one on Amazon, the black one.
The black one.
Yeah. Michael Simpson. And that's paperback. It's about $50 cheaper than the Judd et al. Book. And it's really nice. It's really written in a very straightforward way. It has all the technical junk in there too, but you can skim over stuff and get the wheat germ out,
Amazing. Looks very inviting to me, at least.
Yeah, it's straightforward, And the nice thing you see is when they have what are called cladograms like that, or phylogenetic trees, those little bars are the characters, and they tell you why they think what they're thinking. So if they think that that's a shared, unique character that defines that group. Now, if they find out that there's two different unrelated ways to get the same characteristic, then they have to modify that branching diagram. Because the things look like they're the same, but they're not. So that's where this molecular clock really helps in a lot of ways, because you can see that the two groups diverged, 11,000 years ago and not 8 or whatever it is. So it's a good thing.
This is awesome. Awesome. Folks, if you are just tuning in, we're just looking at this gem of a book called Plant Systematics, 3rd edition by Michael G. Simpson. You can look it up on Amazon.com for further information.
Oh, and the drawings are fantastic. They're very simple. They're much
They
simple.
are. They're very they're simple but sophisticated.
Right.
In the same breath.
Right.
Really
and I think you get a subscription to a web page where if you buy the book yourself, where they have all kinds of beautiful pictures and dissections. A lot of the dissections, you notice there were little things by a guy named Carr from the University of Hawaii. For 10 years, 3 volunteers in the herbarium there funded this photographer Carr to take superb color micrographs of all those dissected flowers to make sure that all the botany courses would have 3D photos that people would latch onto and use.
Amazing.
That's the value of a good volunteer. It's someone who's interested and grateful and shares, and they help hundreds and hundreds of people.
Well, I'm equally pleased to hear that he got the credit that was due to him.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Pretty hard work.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he was paid 50% more than the professor that was his boss.
Okay. Not so much a volunteer then.
No, but they got him because he was the best wedding photographer in the place. And he had to make a decision. Does he want to give up weddings for the next 3 years? So he said, well, you would have to pay me at least this. And they said, we'll pay you 50% more than that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And he just no limit on what he spent on cameras and lenses and all that to make sure that it was just right. It's kind of a once in the life of an institution. That's when they had University of Hawaii had their Lions Arboretum, and they had 2 people running it that were just out of this world. So it was good.
Amazing. Folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Dr. Pipoly. We really did. I mean, gosh, if you have time in the future, please do not hesitate. I'm such a fan.
Okay, good. Everyone knows the Clade, so they all made the grade. No doubt about it. I have
there
fun.
You go.
And every once in a while, it's always good to go out and botanize. Try a Wheatley's book. Florida, the southeastern United States. And those of you that are especially into knowing the plants, you might take a group you really know, like for you guys, maybe the ferns, and take a look at the treatment that Wheatley does of the ferns versus what our friend Wonderland did, because both of them have flora of Florida, and it's complete with keys and everything, and see what the difference is. It would be really interesting.
It's interesting with systematics nowadays. Back when I was younger, I was so excited with the newest edition of the book, and you had to have it because you wanted to stay updated with what the latest classifications are. But now they change almost on a yearly basis, and it just gets fine-tuned. And I think people are slowly gravitating towards Wheatley's publication because
it's simple.
It's simple. It's right at your fingertips. You can download it, provide the information, and it's the latest. You can keep up with the rest of the pack if that's what you want to do. Or you can actually understand where here in Florida it's becoming more of a splitters talk. People trying to speciate or give
the thing is not worth it. The thing to remember, here's one thing I would really like everyone to remember.
Sure.
There are 2 things I would like everyone in Florida to realize and tell everyone they know. The first thing is there are no storm sewers in Florida. I'm serious. There are none. Every time you see a place that drains on the street, it goes directly. Uh-oh. Where the hell did you go?
I'm here.
It goes directly to a water body. No filter, no nothing. And the second thing I want everybody to realize is that we need to think about how we use our resources and how they might be changing depending on what the climate's doing to us. So those are a couple of things that we have to that we have to do. But the thing with the storm sewers in Florida is huge. When I lived in my last house in Tamarack, we had a neighbor 5 doors down, and her husband would be out there with his buddies changing oil in cars on the weekends, and they would pour it down the drain. So,
Terrible.
though, you know how I got it stopped? I had my wife talk to the lady next door, and she talked to that guy's wife, and she says, "Isn't it awful? All this black stuff behind the house in the canal." I said, "Well, that's coming from your husband pouring it down in the street." She went out there and she goes, "What? This is why it stinks in our backyard. What the hell is wrong with you? This is over. No more, or I'm calling the cops." That was the end of it. Because I could talk till I was blue.
I'm gonna miss you, Doctor. You've been just an awesome botanist. You know, we had an in-person little gardening talk. It was last weekend, and I told people, I said, you know, folks, it's a live stream. It's a guy with a PhD behind his name. How many guys with a PhD can talk in such appealing, funny, personable ways to just common folk like us, and just help us expand, just kind of break through our intermediate knowledge and get into more sophisticated knowledge. Doctor, you know, you've done some amazing work here, and I just want you to know that these live streams have really changed people's lives, including mine. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate that. You know, it's the goal to emulate is the guy that wrote Panda's Thumb from Harvard, the zoologist that passed away. He was just amazing.
E.O. Wilson?
No, not E.O. Wilson. It was the other guy, Stephen Jay Gould, Punctuated Equilibrium. He would talk about different evolutionary things, and we'd talk about science, and then in the middle of it, he would talk about the Brooklyn Dodgers and all this history of baseball. And so all these people that were originally from New York, you know, retired and transplanted all over tropical United States, you know, all across the South and in Hawaii and Puerto Rico, everywhere else. They were fascinated by this guy that knew every ball player from 1952 onward that ever played for the Yankees, the Mets, the Brooklyn Dodgers, or whoever else. It was just amazing. But Stephen Jay Gould, he was one kind of guy, let me tell you.
Folks, I've put punctuated equilibrium on the screen in case you guys want to explore that further on Amazon as well.
Yeah, that's a really weird thing. It's not anything that survived the DNA revolution, but for its time, it helped us understand how things don't always move in the most in using the
predictable ways.
Yeah, sometimes something will just happen, and there's no way you could have predicted it. It just happens. So
interesting.
Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for letting me enter your homes via this medium. I appreciate that a lot.
Yes, folks, in case you guys have been tracking the previous live streams, they've surpassed hundreds at this point. So thank you so much for your viewership.
Yeah, no,
I know.
Thanks. Yeah. Let me know what the thing is.
I absolutely will. Yeah. A lot of your viewers are seeing this and just soaking it up. So I know that this is just the beginning of their journey.
Oh, great.
Botany and vascular plants. Thank you again.
Go to Lotus Park in Altamont Springs. My wife and I used to walk around there all the time, and they have the coolest stuff.
They do.
Lots of good bird observation there, and and if you are observant as you go in the different parts of the walkway, you'll see succession in coming in at different rates, and that's what's cool. The number of layers of the forest changes. 2 places it changes gradually, and 2 places it changes abruptly. So see if you can find them. That's your assignment.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a good assignment. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate the time.
Take care.
Bye everyone.